Having emerged from the jungle, Kuala Lumpur is today the capital of the country. When you arrive there, it's difficult to imagine that the town didn't exist in the middle of the 19th century. Thanks to its terrific growth, the town has mushroomed. And yet, despite the expansion, the town has preserved its human dimension and a remarkable architectural heritage. Kuala Lumpur was lucky to have been chosen as the capital by the English. The British colonists endowed it with stunning buildings that blended Victorian and Moorish styles. The English used to play cricket on a field that has become Independence Square. Kuala Lumpur is a very green town, and in some places is even rural. English influence is also very clear. In the lake garden, Her Majesty's gardeners have exploited the vast plant resources of the tropics. In general, the English let nature express herself in their gardens. Here, they had to exert a little discipline. Creation spills over from the gardens as far as the National Theatre. Designed by a Malaysian architect, the building blends into an environment entirely devoted to art. Between mineral and vegetable, there is a fine line. Nature and sculpture come together through their shapes and their materials. The Royal Palace rises in perfect symmetry. The building is a symbol of the stability of the monarchy. In fact, the king is always elected by and from among 9 sultans. This system was designed to satisfy the 9 candidates for the throne at the time of independence. Masjid Negara is another symbol. It's the national mosque. The building was designed by Le Corbusier. The famous architect applied his principles in agreement with the nation's Islam. Daud Abdul Qadir.
Practicing a moderate brand of Islam. For example, there are some countries where they enforce strict segregation between the male and females. Whilst in our case, in Malaysia, we do not adopt that practice. Male and female freely mix. There is no physical segregation.
The Buddhist temple of Tian Hu is dedicated to the goddess of paradise. It was built in the 1980s. The Chinese are often trying to discover their destiny.
This is to get the advice from the goddess. So we will lift up all the fortune stake together and we will release it after our prayer to the god. All right, when we release, the one that bounces up the highest will be the advice from her. Okay, I'll release now. So I have one that's the highest. And the number is number 51. So I'll choose the number 51 and I'll take out the advice and I'll read it again.
Chance is always positive with the Chinese. The Petronas Towers were at one time the tallest in the world. They are each made up of 5 sections which refer to the 5 pillars of Islam. The building is the headquarters of the National Petroleum Company, but it represents so much more. Mohammed Sohelmi is an architect.
It is a symbol that shows the capability of the nation, and Malaysia actually have the technology to build the tallest building in the world. So it is an icon to make the country proud, and I think up to date, people are still proud of KLCC.
At the beginning, the town was set up at the confluence of 2 rivers. In the oldest quarter of Kuala Lumpur, they're trying to save the facades that are threatened by the climate and the developers. But is it not too late? Has modernity not disfigured the town as it sacrificed its soul?
In a way, yes. But then I think you cannot stop that from happening. because like any other cities, Kuala Lumpur is changing and is going through the process of evolution.
Built in the Art Deco style, the Central Market is a true vestige of the past. It contains dozens of boutiques and workshops where many craftsmen work. The Central Market opened its doors in 1936. All cultures can be found there. Among the innumerable stalls, two materials infallibly attract attention: silver, often superbly wrought, and even more so, pewter, which has made the country's fortune. Malaysia has produced up to 60% of the world's pewter. In the Pudu quarter, another market is devoted to electronic equipment. All the products are imported directly from China. Malaysia is a great importer of electronic components. These are used in the manufacture of goods destined for export. Most commercial activities in Malaysia are controlled by the Chinese. Their skills in this field are long established. Their natural talents for trade were recognized by the Europeans as far back as the 16th century. The Indians, who are much fewer in number, have nevertheless managed to have their own successes. At the beginning, the English called upon the Chinese and the Indians to work in the mines or on the plantations. In fact, the Malay sultans granted lands to the English for farming. But they refused to have their subjects employed by foreigners. This explains the country's surprising ethnic diversity. Not all convictions are sacrificed on the altar of commerce. The precepts of their religion are respected by Malaysian Muslims. Even though it is a moderate form of Islam here, women wear the hijab, which leaves the face uncovered. Makeup is allowed, as long as it isn't too showy. Malaysians have a taste for beauty, as their craftwork shows. Batik is a special technique for painting on cloth and produces very sophisticated shades of color. It's a refined and ancient art. Tropical wood is an ideal material for artistic creation, and there is no lack of sources of inspiration. Inspired by the features of the face, sculptor Zorala bin Silin has one speciality: the nose, or rather noses.
My nose generation is different from Western nose, different from Caribbean nose, different from Roman nose, and different from Arabic nose. The nose which I did here is to tell that a generation belongs to everybody in the world.
The nose, a universal subject. Life never stops in a town where traditions are ever present. To the south of Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya has become the administrative capital of the country. Governmental services have moved to a new town almost entirely made up of office buildings. Putrajaya is a rational town run completely by computer. The highest government authorities have taken up residence there, like the Prime Minister in a splendid palace. With its pink granite cupola, the Putra Mosque can hold 15,000 worshippers. Quite clearly, town planners had grand ideas when they designed the capital of the future. Not far from Kuala Lumpur, one is also struck by the excessive size of the Batu Caves site. At the entrance stands an immense statue of the god Murugan, the war god of the Tamil Hindus. A monumental staircase rises up the rock face. The local residents are monkeys, which are sacred animals for the Hindus. In the limestone rock, a number of caves have been dug to serve as temples. Together, they make up the largest Hindu sanctuary outside of India. This is where the great popular gathering for the Thaipusam festival is held.